INCRadio Florida. I'm one of your hosts this morning, Brother Robert DePaulis, coming to you from here in sunny, hot, and steamy Florida. It's ironic because that's actually what's our topic today is how to survive days just like this one. So it's another hot and steamy one. It's a perfect day for us to be talking about how you can survive a Florida summer. Of course, today is Saturday, June 17th or 15th. I jumped 2 days ahead. Actually, I jumped 2 days ahead for a very specific reason because a very special occasion is happening on June 17th. We're going to talk about here in just a second. But June 15th, Saturday, it's 9:33 in the morning here on the East Coast of the United States. We're going to jump over to Brother Jim, though, this morning, and he's going to give our international greetings before we jump into this hot topic that we've got for you today. Good morning.
I maybe I should just muy caliente, right? Isn't it?
Yes.
Very hot. But good morning. Good morning and welcome, everyone. We're so glad to see you. Maganda gabe, bonjour, buenos dias, buenas tardes. And like Brother Robert said, we're in the heat. And it's still a little early for me. It's only June. But here in the state of Florida, we get very hot. And of course, a lot of places in the United States, from Texas all the way, Alabama, Mississippi, I love these terms they come up with. It's like heat dome and things like that. But is it a heat dome? It's like it's a torture dome to a certain extent. But we're certainly getting through it. And, in this heat, it's good to really know what you need to do. I grew up in Ohio, but I've lived a lot of my adult life down south. And let me tell you, when I first moved into the South, it was a learning experience. So, we've got a presentation for you and we've got some experts, but Brother Robert, I'd like to go ahead and jump right in and we'll get into our topic about heat. So, and first off, in Florida, not only do we have this terrible heat, but there's also the humidity. So that's a big part about really understanding what it's all about to live in a place like Florida or Mississippi or some of these very humid places. I've had friends that lived out in Phoenix, Arizona, and even parts of Texas, and they explain it's a dry heat. Well, we certainly don't have a dry heat here in Florida. We have a wet heat with the humidity. So frequently our temperatures are in the 90s. The heat index, which is another thing. When I was young, they didn't really have heat indexes, but now they do. So I don't know if it's better or worse, but we certainly know that we understand why we're suffering more. And it could be over 100 degrees here on a fairly regular basis throughout the summer. And the sun exposure. I have family that come to visit. I learned early on that I kept a stockpile of all kinds of lotions, and because I've had those family visiting down from Ohio, and you don't want to take them to the beach, and after the second day they spend the rest of the week on vacation applying ointments because they are so sunburned. So the sun is simply different the further south you go, the closer to the equator, and especially between those hours of 10 a.m. and 4 a.m. But all these things, I've kind of set it up. We have a lot of heat, but we also have a lot of talent here on INC Florida. And Sister Cherise, who's with us today, she's going to offer up some tips from the medical profession, because it certainly can be dangerous. And the more you know, the safer you and your family are going to be. So Sister Cherise, good morning. How are you doing this morning?
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I'm so excited to be on today. This is a huge topic that I just love being able to teach people, especially about when it comes to like medical treatment and that standpoint, because it's really important, especially during the summer months, that we all try our best. We want to be outside Our children want to be outside. So we all kind of want to just make sure that we're practicing really good safety measures while we're doing that. So the first thing that I want to talk about is heat exhaustion. So when you're outside, you might not realize, especially if you're doing something that is mowing the lawn, our brothers out there, our fathers out there, if they're outside mowing the lawn, if your children are outside playing, especially during the prime time of when the sun is out and shining, the time is typically between 11 and 4. That's when it's most hot. So if you're outside and you start experiencing anything like heavy sweating, you start feeling weak, you might get dizzy, you might get nauseous, you might get a headache. Your body is telling you, hey, something's not right. So the way you can prevent that is make sure you're staying hydrated. Take breaks in cool areas. If you feel like you know your body best, and this is what I always tell my patients, you know your body the best. If you feel like you're doing too much, do less, because your body is going to tell you, hey, something's not right. That's why you're starting to feel weak. That's why you're starting to feel dizzy. And then those are ways that you start going in and you prevent those things from happening, making sure that you're fully hydrated all the time, especially if you're outside. There's ways you can do that, not just take, drinking water, but they also have those towels that you wet, you wrap around your neck, and it helps you stay cool. Or even the little fans that you can, purchase where you turn it on and you have like a fan that's like blowing in your face. The other day, my husband, Brother Eric, was outside and like 12 o'clock, the sun is out and he's like trying to mow the grass, and I can see him like profusely sweating, and I can see the sweat marks all over his shirt. And I'm thinking, my goodness, what is he? So I go to give him the fan and he's like, I don't need that. I'm a guy. Okay, but let me help you. Let me help you before it escalates and gets a little worse, But so that's one thing. That's heat exhaustion. Okay, that's your body saying, oh, it's doing too much right now. When you start to become into the area of heat stroke, now this is something that becomes an emergency. It's more serious. Your body temperature is really high, upwards like as if you have a fever, 103, 102. It's very high. You might start to get confused. You'll notice you'll have a rapid pulse. You'll feel like your heart rate is just too much. And those things can lead to you becoming unconscious. And so when that's happening, like I said, you want to avoid strenuous activity during the peak heat, which was between 11 and 4. And what I really want to let people know about this, if you're around someone who is suffering from heat stroke and they have these signs, there's a difference between heat stroke and heat exhaustion. And with heat stroke, if you try to go ahead and let's say treat them and because this is past the point of drinking water. At this point, we don't want you to give them water. We don't want you to try to cool them down that way, because what can happen is because they're so close to passing out, their body, just think of a car that's overheating. It's about to break down. And so because of that, if you give them water, they can actually choke on it. It can go into their lungs, and then that can become more serious. So that's why it's important you call 911, because at this point you're past getting oral fluids. Now you're going to need IV fluids. And so that's just a safety measure. So at that point you can try cooling the body down. Just don't give them fluids. And you'll know if you feel their heart rate and it's like racing and they're about to pass out, those are signs of a heat stroke. It's different from heat exhaustion. They're coherent. They can tell you where they are, who they are. So those are two things to look out for. Now for dehydration, you're going to feel dry mouth. You're going to feel so thirsty. You just keep chugging those water bottles and it's just not working. Dark urine that it has that smell, and then you might start feeling dizzy. Those are all signs of dehydration. I myself in the medical field and a mother, I feel like I'm dehydrated every day. So it's a struggle to try to stay hydrated. So just make sure you're constantly drinking water. You want to avoid alcohol. You want to avoid caffeine, because those are things that can actually dehydrate you more. So when you're outside, just making sure you take those breaks in cool areas. If it's too hot to mow the grass, Brother Eric, please come back inside. Do that later when the sun is kind of going down. It's okay. Your neighbors don't mind if it's 8 o'clock at night and you're trying trying to mow the grass. It's just, you're trying to be safe, because let me tell you, I experienced it last year, heat exhaustion. Oh my goodness, it's the worst feeling ever, because the thing that people don't realize too is that once you start treating your body, I mean, I thought I was going to pass out. I could feel like my heart rate was just going like miles, and then I felt my throat was so dry, like I felt like I was in a Sahara desert, like I needed water at that moment. And and I was just telling Brother Eric, I was like, Brother Eric, we need to get me some water, I'm going to pass out. And then so we went inside, cooled me down. But when your body is recovering from that, now it's trying to go back into, normal state. You feel so weak. You feel so fatigued because your body just put out all that energy trying to get you back to normal. So that's why it's important to prevent that from happening. That way you can enjoy your summer days. So stay hydrated and stay cool. Okay. So our next slide, sunburn. Oh my goodness. Those are the worst. So what you want to look for is painful red and warm skin, blisters on the skin. You want to stay out of the sun until your sunburn heals. I don't know if you've ever experienced when you have a sunburn and you go right back out into the sun, that heat on your sunburn, it's the worst. Even when you take a warm shower. That's why with sunburns, a lot of the things that we tell our patients to do is to avoid heat. Again, don't take those warm showers, even though it feels amazing. If you have a sunburn, it's just going to hurt worse. So cool showers, aloe vera, even making sure that you're moisturizing that area, because now the skin is needing to heal. So you need to make sure you're moisturizing it. And then big thing here, if you have a blister on your skin, I know it's tempting. Don't bust it, because as soon as you break that blister, it will lead to infection, because now you have skin that's not yet fully healed, and it could just lead to bacteria coming in there and infecting it. So just make sure that you're preventing those types of things. Put cool clothes on sunburn areas, or take a cool bath. I've done this before. I've even asked my children. Sometimes there's this one thing that people don't know too much about: apple cider vinegar, or even coconut oil. The apple cider vinegar, it will actually draw the heat out of your sunburn. And then by applying the coconut oil after, moisturizes it to make sure that, it's getting moisture that it's going to heal. By the next day, my sunburn was like at 50%. And so this is tried and true. So, so those are just some things to think about, and just making sure with it being hot outside, even if you're going to go outside and do garden work or mow the grass, make sure you apply SPF, because it's not just the sun that we're worried about. Remember, being outside and not doing those preventive measures can actually lead to, skin cancer. And those are big, serious things. And how can you prevent that? By staying proactive, applying sunblock. It's not just applying it one time. You need to apply it continuously throughout the day, at least every hour and a half, every 2 hours. If you're at the pool, if you're at the beach, just taking the time to reapply, making sure you allow it to dry before you're going back in the water. So if you're with your family and your children and you're like, oh, it's snack time, perfect time to reapply sunblock. Give them that 10 minutes to eat their snacks and rehydrate, and then allow them to go back into the water. Otherwise, if you apply it, they're just rinsing it off. It's not going to work. So just make sure that you use these steps, and I believe that you will have an amazing, great summer.
One of the things that I found out the hard way is that, you can get a sunburn on a cloudy day, right? It can be very cloudy, and it feels cool, especially early and late in the season where you're running around. It's like, oh, it's a beautiful beach day. And then, yes, getting into that shower and discovering, oh my gosh, I am a lobster. So
I should have put that sunblock. And I'm so happy you brought that up, because yes, that's a big thing. A lot of people think, oh, it's cloudy outside, I don't need. That's the most important time when you do, because those UV rays from the sun are just flowing through the clouds. You can't see them. It doesn't seem bright, but the UV rays are there. And so that's even a worse time, because everybody, just like you, Brother Jim, is like, I don't need sunblock. It's fine. You do. You need sunblock. Is this so health risk of extreme fatigue of heat? Am I doing this one as well?
Oh yeah.
No, Sister Marisol is actually going to tell us about why it is that our body sweats.
Yes.
So just as Sister Cherise mentioned earlier, we want to be proactive to avoid those states that she mentioned. And so we want to sort of share some ways that our body works to help us keep in mind when we're thinking of ways to be proactive. So why does our body sweat? You can think of sweating as our body's own internal way of having air conditioning. So when that liquid that we excrete out of our skin, the sweat in the heat, it allows our body to release heat when it evaporates off of our skin. So I know that it's something that some people may be embarrassed about, but know that sweating actually is a sign of you being healthy and being able to get rid of certain toxins and skin waste. And most of all, here in Florida, a really, really key way in keeping our bodies cool. So in another way that we can sort of help our body do that, especially on days that we are going to be outside doing strenuous work or going to be outside for long periods of time, we want to find ways to simulate or even emulate or exceed this sweating mechanism of our body. So misting our skin, those nice misters, those aren't just for skincare. Those are really good for staying cool on hot days as well. And then when it comes to the point that you do feel closer to things like heat exhaustion, a really fast way or efficient way to keep our bodies cool is to place cool things, maybe things that we packed with us, which we should always pack with us, like a cold drink or maybe even ice packs. Best places to put them on our body would be places known as hot zones or pulse points. So our heads or maybe our neck, our feet, like the towel that Sister Cherise mentioned earlier, those areas are places where our blood vessels are closer to the surface of our skin. And so when we put those cool things on those areas, it helps cool the blood faster, and that blood will then spread throughout the body, help us cool down more efficiently. So we also want to share a few more tips or things to keep in mind when being proactive in avoiding those risks of extreme heat.
And Sister Marisol, I just want to touch on one thing, because you talked about why our body sweats and how sweating is actually a good thing for our bodies, right? And it's so true, because when I ride, as you guys know, I love to bike, and I'll usually bike early in the morning when it's typically cooler here in Florida. It's only like 90 degrees at 6 a.m. But but it's absolutely true that if your body is sweating, it's actually cooling, because I have had instances where I don't drink enough water before I start riding, and my body feels like it's overheating, but it's not producing any sweat. And that's, to Sister Sharice's point, one of the signs of dehydration, and which is a health risk. So these are legit points that both of you guys are bringing up. So let's talk a little bit more about hydration, Sister Marisol. Give us some more tips.
For sure. So as we mentioned earlier, hydration is very, very key. And we want to keep in mind, especially when we're trying to be proactive for these hot days, that we have to hydrate ahead of time. Once we already feel that sensation of being thirsty, it's already too late. You're already running low. And you don't want to push that further to where you feel those extreme symptoms that Sister Cherise was mentioning earlier. So we want to aim for 8 to 10 glasses a day. Definitely don't hesitate to aim for more than that, because we're going to be outside sweating. And then not just water, but also making sure that we keep our electrolytes in balance too. So great sources for these would be sports drinks, coconut water. You can also add electrolyte tablets to your drinking water. And we want to avoid diuretics or dehydrants such as caffeine and alcohol. So we really have to watch out. I know my age, our friend group, we are really guilty of going after those cool drinks like boba, especially on these hot days. But you have to be careful, because boba involves tea, and tea has caffeine in a lot of cases. So, those diuretics can sneak in. And now with a lot of those energy drinks, those have caffeine too, maybe sugar-free, yes, and looks healthy, but the caffeine might not be on your side. Any tips or any favorite electrolyte beverages here on the team?
I like the ones with the powder that I have so many that I just keep in my purse, because I have so many little ones, and really, like, it's just so convenient that I can just go ahead and just open it up. They're like little sticks, and I just put them in the water and give them to the kids, and they're flavored, which I love too, because trying to get my children to drink plain water sometimes is a feat in itself. So if I give them something that's like cherry flavored or berry or lemon, then they're more prone to want to drink it. So those are great things that I like to do. And I just wanted to hit on the making sure that you limit your caffeine, like what Sister Marisol said. I know she mentioned boba tea, but there's certain people out there who think, oh, my iced coffee is keeping me hydrated. No, it's not. And then I think my husband said, well, the ice melts and turns into water. That doesn't count still. I'm sorry. You need to drink something else. So yes, I just wanted to hit on that as well.
That's so true. A really good habit to get into is for every caffeinated drink, tea or coffee that you order, get a side of water. It's usually free too.
I think one of the best parenting advices I received was never underestimate the power of water, a glass of water, to change a child's mood. Isn't it right, Sister Cherise? Yeah,
that's because they're so irritable already because they've been playing so much. Like that game of the floor is lava just really knocked them out, and the water actually does it. It calms them down. So I do, and then but sometimes I do sneak a little bit of berry flavored IV solution in there, and they're good to go.
All of these tips and tricks, everyone. So also moving on to other ways that we can be proactive, keeping an eye on our clothing and accessories. Especially here in Florida, we lean towards those natural fibers that are moisture wicking, and we love cotton, linen. You also kind of want to stay away, especially if your skin is a little more sensitive. Yes, we want to do those synthetic fibers. Sometimes people have bad reactions on their skin to those, especially if you work out a lot. Your sweat doesn't get rid of the bacteria. It actually lets it out into your clothes, and sometimes it can stay there and cause things like body acne. So you have to be careful with that and keep an eye on how your skin reacts to those things. Keep on light colors. So in the heat, you want to stay away from those darker colors like black, navy blue, even though they may be stylish. Use them wisely. Wide brimmed hats to avoid those sunburns. And of course, UV protection, always reapply. Anything more than 2 hours, it's time to reapply. As far as home and office, being proactive and taking care of the spaces that we spend so much time in, make sure that we're staying on top of our regular services for our AC units. I have experienced this. You do not want your AC to break down in the middle of the summer. It is absolutely miserable. And if you are renting, make sure that you stay in communication with your landlord and maintenance officers for your building, because they are actually obligated to help you find a new space if things don't get fixed in more than 24 hours because it is not safe. Fans and ventilation, make sure your fans are working, curtains and blinds. So keep the sunlight out when you're feeling a little bit hot. And then outdoor activities, we want to make sure that we keep an eye on the schedule, even though we're having a good time, making great plans, things like that. We do want to make sure that, as we said, we're keeping an eye on the time, making sure you reapply on time, making sure you're drinking your water in between all those fun things. Keep in the shade. We love nature here in Florida. Find the trees, stay under them every once in a while, and then take breaks to make sure you drink your water, eat your snacks. All righty. Oh, Sister Cherise has more to share, but she needed.
No, I was going to say, eat your snacks. Watermelon. Watermelon is great. My kids love watermelon. And hence the word water, hence that word water within the melon. So that will make sure that you're nice and hydrated too.
That's awesome.
I think that, like watermelon is one of my favorite, like cantaloupe, anything that seems juicy, and that's like for kids especially, because Luke, my son, loves watermelon, and it's so easy to get him to get hydrated from that. But exercise, now this is something I'm not an expert on, but
let's toss this over to our resident exercise, and also by virtue of being our resident pet guru as well, Sister Audrey.
Yes. I mean, with exercise, of course, you're like what Sister Sharice and Sister Marisol mentioned already. You could be losing a lot of fluids during exercise. So, some safety tips when when you're exercising and going into your routine during the summer, just switch it up. Try not to work out outdoors, because obviously you can't control the weather, you can't control the heat index. So, utilize any gyms or home workouts. You'll find me there always in the gym. But one of my favorite ways of exercising is swimming. Just because you're staying in the water, you're making sure that you're maintaining that cool and refresh. It's a cool and refreshing exercise option, right? So you're maintaining that body regulation. But the only downside of swimming is making sure that you're consciously hydrating. Just because you want to avoid that. Mistaking being in the water for being hydrated as well. So make sure you're drinking water before, during, and after the exercise, just because it's going to be very crucial. I mean, I would start even 2 to 3 days ahead of time before you're going to get yourself into an exercise routine, making sure you're drinking plenty of water for that. And then when you cool down, make sure it's a gradual cool down just to prevent any overheating. So while you're sipping in between sets, use that time to kind of relax, get your heart rate a little bit slower, and that way you're not sweating just as much. But for your pets as well, make sure your pets stay safe during the summer. They need to hydrate just as well. So make sure they have plenty of fresh water. Let them stop and pause in the shade. We have plenty of trees here in Florida, like Sister Marisol mentioned. So let them enjoy the grass for a little bit while you also get your break. And during the walks, make sure that you're choosing cooler parts of the day. I see a lot, especially here in the Tampa Bay area, lots of dog owners walking early in the morning or when the sun starts to set, and you get a beautiful view in both times of the day. So added bonus to that. But most especially, never leave your pets in the car. It is worse than a sauna. And you just want to make sure that your pets are taken care. You don't want to stay in the car just as much as your pets wouldn't want to either. So just be careful, making sure you don't leave any live things in your vehicles during the summer.
Wow,
That's
I tell you what, this is enjoy the summer, everyone out there. I can't believe it's already getting as hot as it is for June. So we still have a lot of months to go through. What Brother Robert? Do we have any comments out there for today?
Yeah, we actually do. We have quite a few that joined us this morning. We thank you guys always for getting up early and watching our program. Brother Adrian, of course, our number one fan on the West Coast there in Las Vegas. Good morning from South Las Vegas, Brother Adrian of Belgas. Sister Arnie Jane is coming to us from Fort Worth in South Central States, which ironically, they're the program that comes on right after us. So please stay tuned and join their show. They're going to be talking about avoiding travel mistakes today. I'm definitely tuning in because I'm the guy that usually makes all of those mistakes. Bryn Torres is also saying, thank you, Sister Sharice. These are really great tips, and we'll definitely put them to practice and apply them. Sister Teresa Mariff, good morning, brethren. Thanks to INCRadio Florida. Hashtag Kissimmee for our folks there in Central Florida. Lamberto Pacanut, good morning. My beloved son-in-law. I think they must know you, Brother Jim. I think this is some insider shout outs we've got going on here. And Mario Oka, good evening here in the Philippines. Thank you for staying up late. They're enjoying watching us from the locale of Brixtonville in the district of Caloocan North. And then we also have one from Jeff Hernandez, known as the Jeffster, saying hi to everybody here and stay hydrated. And Sister Catlea, she says that her husband loves the powder hydration as well. I think everybody there. And of course, it looks like we've got a shout out for a birthday. Happy advanced birthday to Sister Ann Lee McPartlin, who's a Floridian here. And thanks, Brother Nathan, for joining us here, saying good morning, Florida, to everyone. All right. Well, we've got, I think, down to the bottom or the top of the hour, because as we always say, we are the fastest 30 minutes on radio. But of course, before we do that, just a couple of quick announcements. Tomorrow, we have got our CFO Day in Orlando starting there in the afternoon at the Orlando uh, compound. So, all of our families traveling, please stay safe. It is going to be hot. Please practice all of the tips that we've given you today on how to stay cool while you're there during our CFO Day. And then a special shout out, of course, to one of our very own, Sister Maricel. We mentioned that the 17th is a special date. This is her last day as a host with us here on INCRadio Florida as a single lady, because on Monday she will be joining the rest of us here on the crew. Sister Marisol, congratulations on your upcoming wedding. We're super excited. And then this is going to be an all booklet crowd again, right? So, we're welcome to the fun side is all we can say. So
Welcome to the married
congratulations.
life.
That's right. Congratulations. Well, we want to thank everyone who joined us today. Thank you to Sister Cherise for all those wonderful tips on health. Sister Audrey, Sister Marisol, Brother Jim, always. And of course, I'm Brother Robert here in hot and steamy Tampa, Florida. So please stay tuned, because INC Radio South Central States is coming up next. We're going to see you next week on INC Radio Florida. We've got another special topic. And from what I understand, it involves food. So you're probably going to want to be here. So let's talk to you next week. Have a great weekend. Stay safe, stay hydrated, and most importantly, enjoy the summer.